Daniel 2. In the 2nd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, he said to them, "I have had a dream that troubles me and I want to know what it means." Then the astrologers answered the king, "May the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream and we will interpret it." The king replied to the astrologers, "This is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me." Once more they replied, "Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it." Then the king answered, "I am certain that you are trying to gain time because you realize that this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is only one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will change. So then tell me the dream, and I will know that you can interpret it for me." The astrologers answered the king, "There's no one on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among humans." This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. When Arion, the commander of the king's guards, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer, "Why did the king issue such a harsh decree?" Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel. At this, Daniel went into the king and asked for time so that he might interpret the dream for him. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. He urged them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven and said, by the way, before I read what Daniel said, earlier today I uploaded a video and I talked about dreams and visions. Daniel is not confused about whether or not he's having a dream or a vision from God. He knows exactly who it came from. He knows that it's not like a dream where God is like contending with him and talking to him as an individual. He knows that this is an answer to his prayer and that God is giving this to him. Unfortunately, what we're finding on YouTube and in counterfeit Christianity are people just simply having dreams, and oftentimes they're binging on YouTube and they're ingesting false doctrines like pre-tribulation rapture and all of this other garbage. And then they go on YouTube and they say, "I had this dream." I mean, it remains to be seen whether or not they actually even had a dream or they're making it up. But if they had a dream, what I told you in the other video, if you have a dream and you believe that it's from God and you believe that he is giving you some sort of wisdom, then his spirit is the one who's going to interpret it for you. You notice that Daniel and others who had visions, an angel interpreted it for them. They are telling them the meaning of that dream, or it's inherently being revealed to them by the Spirit of God. But even in Revelation, even in the book of Revelation, the angel who's revealing this to John is still coaching him through it. So there's still this interaction between John and the angel who's revealing this to him. He shows him something and then he says, "Now you must prophesy about many things." He's coaching him through the entire meaning of the vision. So I've had experiences where I've had a dream and I knew that there was something about that was from God, or I had a vision. First of all, I have to discern whether that's a dream that is for me or God is talking to me in my sleep and he's talking specifically to me about something, which usually that's the case because he's usually building me as an individual. I have also had visions, and what I have done is I've not gone and then shared that with everyone on YouTube. I've sat on it, and some of that I've sat on for a year or more in order to fully understand what it was that God was saying. And it's kind of frustrating when God gives you information a year in advance and doesn't fully reveal it. Like he reveals a part of it and then he just makes you sit with it. But, he's testing you to see, are you going to go run and tell people this for your own glory, or are you going to sit and wait as he reveals to you what he wants to reveal? I don't see that happening. I mean, in all fairness, those who are actually doing that aren't out. I'm not going to see it because they're not out there talking about it. But I guess what I'm saying is that what I do see happening are people going onto YouTube and talking about their pre-tribulation rapture dream, which isn't even biblically accurate. It's in opposition to the word of God. And I believe that some of those people really believe what they're saying and really believe that they had a dream that came from God, but they're not discerning it with him. That's the problem. That is why they're handed over to delusion, and that is why those who follow them and are listening to these dreams because they can't be bothered to have a relationship with God, that's why they're led into deception as well. So pay attention to the pattern of Scripture because God doesn't switch it up. All right, so during the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven and said, "Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes the times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king." Then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, "Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret his dream for him." So that's kind of crazy. He just saved their lives, and they're going to turn against him, right? Later on in the story. Evil. Arioch took Daniel to the king at once and said, "I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means." The king asked Daniel, also called Belteshazzar, "Are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and interpret it?" Daniel replied, "No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he is asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the days to come. Your dream and the visions that passed through your mind as you were laying in bed are these. As your majesty was lying there, your mind turned to things to come, and the revealer of mysteries showed you what is going to happen. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than anyone else alive, but so that your majesty may know the interpretation and that you may understand what went through your mind. Your majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken to pieces and became like chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace. But the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. Okay, if you don't understand this, please rewind it. Go back in the video, rewind it. That's how old I am. We rewound things before. Okay, so if you don't understand that, I want to point some things out to you, and I want you to re-listen to it or reread it. Starts at verse 31. Get this in your mind. Nebuchadnezzar has seen a statue. The head of the statue is made of gold, its chest and arms made of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and its feet are iron and clay. Iron and clay don't really go together. They don't adhere to each other, right? But it's made of these two things. And then while he's watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands, and that rock strikes the feet of the statue with the iron and clay and smashes them. And then the entire statue, the gold, the silver, the bronze, the iron, the clay, all of it is demolished, even to the extent that it's described as becoming like chaff on the threshing floor in the summer. And the wind sweeps them away without leaving a trace, but the rock that strikes the statue becomes a huge mountain and fills the entire earth. We've talked about mountains before. We've talked about the mountain of Seir, Seir. We've talked about the mountain of Sinai or the mountain of Zion. A mountain is a power, but this mountain is going to become huge and fill the entire earth. It is a kingdom that will not be broken up. It is an eternal kingdom. And I told you that even though this kingdom is smaller, many are called, but few are chosen. This is just the chosen people. It's smaller than the other mountain. This mountain will not be broken up. It will not crumble. But the other mountain that has more followers, more in that kingdom, it's just a crumble. It is a crumble waiting to happen. It is a combination of iron and clay that's just going to break apart. It will not adhere. A kingdom divided against itself will not stand. Don't think that Jesus is saying when he says a kingdom divided will not stand, don't think, oh, okay, well, Satan knows that he shouldn't be divided against himself. No, Satan is divided against himself. He is constantly creating division among his own people, constantly destroying his own people. The bottom line is, he's not going to stand. God's kingdom is described as being brought into unity. Satan's kingdom is never described that way. He's going to reconcile certain powers that he's established, right? You got the insurance companies with pharma, with medicine, with science, with psychology. But are they really unified? Is counterfeit Christianity really unified? No, they come together because of the sin that they are conformed to. There is no unity, and the truth that binds us together is not in them. And in fact, you see that people who are of Satan, including Babylon the Great, and the prostitutes that bore out of her, and all the merchants who, commit adultery with her, all the kings of the earth that commit adultery with her, they're going to strip her naked. So that is the final result of Satan's kingdom, is that there's just chaos. They hate each other. There's no loyalty. They destroy each other, and they tear at one another's flesh. And I believe that that is the reason why love fulfills all commands, because we want unity in God's church, and love is what is going to bring us together in that unity. There's no love in Satan's kingdom. A kingdom divided against itself will not stand. Verse 36, this was the dream, and now we will interpret it to the king. Your Majesty, you are King of kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed all mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds in the sky. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold. Okay, so Daniel is going to start at the top of that statue, and he's going to work his way down. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, is the head of gold. You might want to take notes on this because it's a lot easier to see it in black and white. And you know what? Who cares? Draw a stick figure if you need to. You don't have to be a great artist, but draw a stick figure if you need to understand kind of, how this looks in this statue that was shown to him. After you, another kingdom will arise inferior to yours, okay? So you have gold as the head and silver as the chest. Silver is inferior to gold. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. So you've got gold as the head, silver as the chest. Now you've got bronze. Now let me tell you something. We want to understand who these kingdoms are. Who defeated Babylon? I told you this in other videos. Medo-Persia defeated Babylon. Medo-Persia fell to Greece, so that is bronze. And Greece fell to pagan Rome. So that's the next kingdom coming up. So after you, another kingdom will arise, inferior to yours, this silver kingdom that includes the chest and the arms. Now the arms are two, right? There's two arms, Medo, Persia. A combination of two, but even though it's a combination of two, it's still inferior to Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom of Babylon. Medo-Persia falls to Greece, and then Greece falls to Rome, pagan Rome. And this is the Iron Kingdom. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things into pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Okay, so that's what it did. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. So what's the mixing here? Pagan Rome fell to papal Rome. And you have to remember that Rome was in power at the time of Jesus. So from the perspective of John, when he is seeing that revelation, he knew that Rome was going to be involved in the Antichrist. They knew it. And they would refer to Rome as Babylon the Great. Let's talk about the mixture. Just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. I want you to just make a note of that. We'll go back to it. The people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. And also think about this. Papal Rome is a combination of so-called Christianity and pagan ideas. Do those adhere to one another? Does Christianity adhere to paganism? No, absolutely not. So God is using the tangible to help us to understand the spiritual. A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. They are not working for the same spirit, for the same power, for the same goal. This is a system that has come together for convenience. It's a system that has come together for gold and glory. Its language is completely confused. And because of that, its people will be scattered because, you can't really coexist when you're all on different pages. You can't really adhere. Verse 44, in the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of the mountain, but not by human hands, a rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. Is this symbolism that God is using, that he has used throughout the word to help us to understand that he is going to break up all of those kingdoms? And take a look at what Daniel prayed in his prayer. Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons. Now listen, he deposes kings and raises up others. He's the one who does this. I tell you this all the time, and I think a lot of people think I'm nuts that I don't vote. Because I know that God is the one doing this, He's the one who deposes kings and raises up others. Look what he did to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar had one of the most powerful kingdoms ever. And he was made to eat grass for 7 years because he would not acknowledge the sovereignty of God, because he thought that that was his doing. He never once lost a battle, not one. And yet he was humbled to the point of eating grass like an ox, being drenched with the dew of heaven, 7 years until he was brought to the point where he acknowledged the sovereignty of God. God raises kings and he also brings them down. And the other thing that you need to understand is that, it's interesting because we were always saying that we have a democracy here in the United States. And in a democracy, the majority rules. And it just so happens that God has sort of set up a version of democracy as well. Because he says, if my people who are called by my name will return to me, I will return to them. I will heal them. I'll heal their land. I will restore them. They will have an audience with me. It's not so much about the majority. It's about his people who have an audience with him. So if we're being handed over to certain spirits in this country or in whatever country you're in, because truly this is a global issue at this point in history, what do you think the majority is in God's people? What spirit do you think they're turning to? Have they returned to God, Or are they conformed to a different spirit? Because I don't hear anyone in these counterfeit churches, and even in God's people, I still hear them talking about politics. I don't hear them talking about what God established. I don't hear them acknowledging the sovereignty of God. I hear them idolizing politicians, which is about one of the most foolish things I've ever heard. We need to be putting our faith where our mouth is, because this doesn't, to me, I don't see that people actually believe when these are the things that they're talking about. When self-proclaimed Christians are arguing the sovereignty of man or the sovereignty of a political party, that makes absolutely no sense to me. You want to be blessed by God, you have to return to God, because he's capable of bypassing your voting system and handing you over to the spirit that you've chosen. So in his prayer, before he even stands before Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel is acknowledging that God is the one who deposes kings and God is the one who appoints new ones. He is also the one who is going to destroy every single man-made kingdom or Satan-made kingdom. They will all be destroyed, and it will be destroyed by the rock, and that rock will become a huge mountain and will fill the whole earth. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true, and its interpretation is trustworthy. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrate before Daniel and paid him honor, and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him. The king said to Daniel, "Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings, and a revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal this mystery." Then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men. Moreover, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego administrators over the prince of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court. Something was signed into effect yesterday, January 10th, 2023, and it is important with regard to these last days. It is important that we understand a union that's being brought together, it's being attempted, and the spiritual significance of that union, of what that union represents. It is a union that will not stand between NATO and the United Nations. It is a kingdom that will not stand. I'm not going to talk about it in this video. I'm going to kind of break things up a little bit because some of you have shared with me that it's helpful to have these kind of broken up so you can kind of, chew on or digest what I've talked about in shorter videos. Sometimes it can get a little dense. I understand that. So I'm going to break this up. I will go ahead and label the videos, let's say Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and I'll label them by numbers so that you can track them. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.